Okay, so we're all getting a little bit of blood sugar, things happening, carbohydrates. So as I was saying with the Fulbright and that research, it sometimes takes a year to do it. So it's not like if you look at October, this coming October, it's kind of like, that's my spot, that's my goal. It's achievable, but it's work, you know. I've had it like, it was probably 4 or 5 years ago, we had a student who applied to do research in Indonesia, which I would urge you all to do because it is an accessible, we have a relationship through both Andrew Chittick and Janine Lessman with Indonesia and the schools there. We do have some connections. It was a doable proposition for this student, Jeffrey Good, to propose that he wanted to go and do research on a specific type of pesticides interaction with aquaculture there. Problem is that getting that letter of endorsement from Indonesia took forever, and we were literally waiting, even though the professor had said, his name was Professor Djibouti, which I'll never forget because I was waiting for Djibouti forever. We were calling it the Djibouti call. But it took him, he was just on a different timeline than we were, right? And that's the other thing, academic calendars shift from different countries, so, you know, being mindful of that is key. Summer is historically a slower period for academics, but that also means they're not around, so, or they might be in the field. So you might need.
They don't do email.
Yeah.
So to get my letter of endorsement from China, my advisor had to go to China and get it.
Yeah, Allison had a research Fulbright to China, and so she went through this process. And how long did it take you?
To do the application?
Yeah, like to find, like when you said, I'm going to go to China, I'm going to do this Fulbright, I want to go to, you know, this is what I want to do. Like, what does that timeline look like?
We started this probably in March or April of the year that I applied. So 6 months.
So about where you guys are.
And I got it, and it worked, but having an advisor who could go to her own advisor in China and say, would you do this? Like, was really nice.
It's the network. And it's that letter of endorsement that means everything. We had a student that had a spectacular one to Kenya, was connected well with an organization that was doing research on the deaths of chimpanzees in road crossings in a tourist area, had funding, had the whole thing. The letter of endorsement basically said, yes, I'd like X to come to my organization, I will provide Y, thank you. Which isn't the letter that you need. And so you really want to give yourself enough time so that you can help them also work with us or work with others so they can craft a really strong letter. But number one on Fulbright's list is granting research grants to undergraduate holding individuals. So that's what they rank highest. Their second rate is ETAs, which are the English Teaching Associates. Those are a large number of our students who have the ETAs. ETAs teach in a variety of different countries. They teach from elementary to high school to college. So it's not just like you're applying to basically teach English. You are often applying to teach or help or assist to teach. Spain and France are the most popular. If you're going to apply, really take a look at your level of competitiveness. They also require a high level of proficiency in language. Countries like Bulgaria, which we've had students place, Taiwan, which we've had students place, do not require host country language, but that does not mean that you want to be unaware of the language. You might possibly be taking on independent study that'll show dedication. Whoops, go ahead.
Also, if you're Spanish or French speaker, I will say Caribbean or Francophone West Africa, Latin America, much easier to get. Much. So do consider those as well.
And when you think about the Fulbright, you're not just thinking about like I said, spinning the globe and putting your finger where you want to go. You're thinking about your connection with that country too. So picking a country that you see yourself invested in. For instance, Claire Russell, who did get from Eckerd, who did get Bulgaria as an ETA, she actually we did a strategic placement of that. She wanted to go to Europe, but she knew that she wasn't going to be competitive in France. And she's like, Bulgaria doesn't require, but let me find out a bit more about Bulgaria. And so she went through a really intense exploration of Bulgaria. In fact, she even the summer before she applied had the opportunity when she was visiting some family in Europe to pop over to Bulgaria for a couple days. She visited the Fulbright Commission there And those were the people she interviewed with later, which I don't encourage you to do that level, but that's the kind of things that help. Every country has a Fulbright commission and has a Fulbright program. It's always a good thing to look at them, to engage with them, to have a dialogue even beforehand. It's a demonstration of your desire for that experience. Now, if you go and teach or do research, it's usually an 8 to 10 month placement. So the study kind of shifts and flows depending on the program. So you kind of have to look at that commitment too. If you apply in October of this coming year, you will find out, hopefully if there's no government shutdown again, you will find out around January 15th whether you're a semifinalist. And then you will find out based on the country, once you become a semifinalist, that means the U.S. says yes, we want to send this candidate onto the country. And then the countries decide, based on the semifinalists that they're given, who they want to extend to. Now that might mean an interview with the panel from that country. That might mean they might send you a questionnaire. This year, Carlin Haas was a finalist for finalist for Columbia. They sent her 6 personality tests that she needed to take. And then after she took the personality test, they decided whether they were going to interview her or not. That was the first time I had seen personality tests deployed as an indicator. But they're wanting to look and make sure that you, as an incoming Fulbrighter, are going to be successful in that country and successful in that situation. But the Fulbright, we are one of the nation's top producing institutions for our small liberal arts colleges of Fulbrighters, so we have a really good history with it. We have a large body of resources on campus, from faculty that have had Fulbrights to students who've had Fulbrights to staff that have applied for Fulbrights. So there's a lot of different parts that we can deploy for you. I think that type of experience is also very similar to what you'll see down here with like the Princeton in Asia, Africa, and Latin America. Those 3 are programs that are run through Princeton, but they are not graduate programs. They are year-long fellowships where they place you with organizations that are working in those areas, in countries, where you will be doing organizational work. In Asia right now, the ones that are listed as organizations that you've worked for range from in Cambodia to, in Cambodia there's a large portion that are working with education of young girls. There's also some trafficking organizations that are working to stop trafficking in Cambodia. There's a ton in Japan for education. There's some environmental organizations. In Latin America, there's a lot of conservation and advocacy work there. And in Africa, education, public health, and sanitation. And so we, 2 years ago, Ellen Ermick received a Princeton in Africa. She was placed with an organization that was doing work in wildlife management in Kenya. And so she did work for a year with an organization that basically kind of taught and facilitated educational awareness of wildlife concerns and that kind of work. And that's what she's ultimately going to hopefully be pursuing in graduate school after she gets done, possibly going back to Kenya to work with the Hyena Project, which she connected with there. So the Princeton in Africa, Princeton in Asia, and Princeton in Latin America are fantastic resources. And if you get any of these, or if you're a finalist for any of these, your graduate school, your post-baccalaureate stuff is going to continue to bump up. You are not going to get all of these. Although you may get close to a couple of them, and we have had students and alum who have consistently applied. We had one student that applied for Fulbright 3 times before she died. And so it's something that often becomes part of your planning, but it's almost like you're running parallels, right? So you have, like, if I get Fulbright, this is what it's going to look like. But I'm going to go ahead and apply to the Princeton in Latin America too, because I'm interested in that. But I'm also going to apply to the Marshall, or I'm going to apply to the Knight Tennessee, or I'm just going to apply to some graduate programs, right? It's all about thinking strategically ahead instead of it's about you managing these applications instead of you being managed by them. Because like the Humanity in Action and the Rangel, these are both opportunities that you need to apply to. You can apply to now as an undergrad, but you can also apply as a senior and also as a graduate. The Humanity in Action is basically a group, a think tank that meets, usually there's a John Lewis Fellowship that meets in Atlanta, and then there's another fellowship that meets out, this year I think it's in Amsterdam, that is an international group of students who get together to try to solve different issues reflecting to and relating to issues in humanitarian concerns, from global public health to immigration rights, refugee rights, etc. And that's a 6-week program in the summer, but by doing that, you also move forward in your better candidate further. There's also things on here that I haven't put on here, like we are one of the 300 institutes in the U.S. that can submit nominees to the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, which is a 1-year placement with the Carnegie Endowment, which is a think tank, and it's a $36,000 placement plus lodging in Washington, D.C. So last year we nominated one individual to apply. She was interviewed, but she did not get it. It's super competitive. The one that I always like to say that got it is George Stephanopoulos, who you guys all know as the guy from Good Morning America, but I know him as the political pundit that was also involved with Bill Clinton's campaign. But he is now on Good Morning America doing morning TV. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. Not that you're all going to do morning TV, or that morning TV is bad, but okay. But there's that's going to be a more, a different tangent that you're going to take if you decide to do that. The key is to start thinking now about these opportunities, start to create a timeline, and start to use the resources that Eckerd has for you. I'm a happy resource, of course, as you guys know. I will look at every draft that I can look at and give you feedback that I can. I will also connect you with other alums and other individuals that have interests like yours so that you can kind of brainstorm and connect that. I know Allison is also willing to offer her time and her expertise too. As a former Fulbrighter, she has both been in your seat and also on the other side too. And has good feedback on that, and has received other international awards too.
Some of the other ones on here.
Yeah. We could talk about a number of them too that are floating around there. I love the Maureen too, but that's got a scholarship and a fellowship. That's both for undergrad and grads.
Yeah. So you can apply for that.
Yeah, like at will.
Oh yeah, me.
Which you should. I like that Will's just like, what?
Yeah.
You should. The thing is if you don't apply, you don't know. If you're already like casting yourself out as like, oh, I won't get that, why I'm applying, well then you're not going to. But at least if you put the time and effort in, it's not, and I don't say that because I think you should go through and just like, yep. But I think that you should go through and pick the ones that you target and then open them up. I don't know if you guys, Stacey Abrams, right? She did an amazing interview a couple of years ago before she was the gubernatorial candidate, when she was just kind of rising on the scene, with Teen Vogue, which is the bastion of news now, and journalistic integrity. It is, really, seriously, they're doing great work. I'm not being snarky. They interviewed Stacey Abrams, and they were like, well, so how did you get where you are? And she's talking about, like, education's always been important, and they're like, well, why law? Why Yale, right? Like, why would you go to Yale? And she goes, well, honestly, someone told me that, like, I wandered in somewhere, and they told me that I should apply for the roads. So I sat down, spent my time thinking about what I needed to do in my future, poured my heart out into this essay and these materials, and really thought about it, right? Had to meet with the president of the school. She was going to talk about, like, why the roads and why she wanted this. And she discovered her passion as she was doing it, applied for the roads, and then decided, well, I might as well apply to Yale too. Why not? I applied to Yale, got in, didn't get the roads, but she's like, you know what, regardless of whether I got that or not, it gave me the confidence and the foresight. Like, I could look ahead and plan my future enough that applying to Yale was not something outlandish, which, like, right now, I'm sure some of you are like, no, that's like way out there, but it's not. And even if it does feel like it's way out, there's other things that are going to kind of contribute to it. And that's kind of my spiel. I am available. I'm over in the Center for Academic Excellence, as most of you know. You can pop in. You can email me. In the summer, I am on campus and off campus, but I do a lot of virtual meetings, Skype, FaceTime, Google Hangout. We're perfectly happy to do those and look at documents and talk to you. But April 23rd is kind of the deadline. You will all receive, since you've signed up for the email, and I will also publicize it other places too, for those who couldn't make it tonight. You'll all receive an email that says, here is the kind of the application, pre-application deadline. Please select this. Please select the ones you're interested in. So I can also get our resources ready, because you're going to China this summer, correct?
Yeah, so there's a month where email is very spotty.
And so we'll want to make those strategic decisions too. But if as you're looking at this, you're like, you know what? I know I'm not gonna be able to do it this year. It's gonna be next year, or that's where your timing is. That's fine too. Just to get these thoughts in your head. That's the key element to kind of getting these awards and getting these opportunities. And like I said, we've been really successful at Eckerd at helping and to facilitate your success, because in a very basic case, it's our success too. So we want to help you as much as you can, and as much as we can. So I know I dumped a ton of stuff at you, a little aspiration, a little snark, but questions, comments, concerns, observations.
I actually have a question.
Yeah.
So for the Marshall, the Mitchell, and the Rhodes, we can't read. Can we
Suggest?
discuss? So let's say somebody wants to come and say, well, this is what I'm thinking of writing about. Nothing's on paper. Can we talk about
We can have a dialogue. We can talk about it. It's just we cannot have any paper engagement, I suppose.
So yeah, talk your idea, even for those, you can talk to us about your ideas. Like, I was going to start out this way, and then talk about this, and this, and then we can work with that.
And you can
That's okay.
Yeah, that's okay, because it's exploring and there's a ton. I don't want to say there's not so many samples anymore, but there's a lot of different talking points and strategies that people have used to get themselves into these essays. The first draft is not your final draft. Never. I know Taylor knows this. Draft after draft after draft. Yes. Well, because the first draft is cheese. It's pure cheese.
Yeah.
It's my dream is, my passion is, I have always loved since I was little. I believe, and no, and it's not about that, right? Because everyone who's applying for these things has those beliefs, those values, those stories of being a little girl or a boy or little person. They all have those spaces, right? And so that's just the common denominator. What separates that kind of writing from the prose that kind of gets you to say, I'm going to tell you why I'm the best candidate. I'm going to show you through examples that are going to be supported through the things that I've done and the academics that I pursued and I plan for the future. That's where the real strength is for these applications. And it takes time. And it takes living with drafts that are going to be, as Annie Lamont says, a shitty first draft. I mean, you're going to live with it. You're going to feel cheese. You're going to feel like it's going to take some time. But this also means, too, having conversations with us, having conversations with your mentors, having conversations with each other. The best groups of students create little subgroups with each other and help each other to compete and help each other to kind of get to the next stage, too. Although it was really interesting this year to have 2 students applying for Australia study programs, and both of them being fairly strong but also fairly close, and only one getting the semifinalist status, right? There's a lot there. But that too is what you're gonna face in the future. So it's not, as much as we'd all love to see you have one kitten, one puppy, and a unicorn, and a full paying job, and health insurance, and clean environment, all these wonderful things. You're not gonna get it out in the adult world. So learning these kind of learning how to deal with winning and losing, and using it as a growth opportunity is another thing to do too. So, yeah.
So for which of the scholarships, if any of them, well, I guess my question is, so I would like to go to the Peace Corps after graduation. So after that 2.5 years of being away, am I still able to come back and apply
you
for
are.
all of them?
Except for the roads, which is 25, so it depends on where you are.
Okay.
Now, I will tell you too, the Peace Corps gives you the Coverdale Award, which pays 100% of about 38 programs in a variety of different areas.
The what award?
Coverdale, Coverdell. Look at it on Peace Corps. I mean, there's anthropology programs that are 100% covered. There's public health programs. There's a couple of law programs that are covered in a certain way. There's poli-sci ones that are covered. Again, the one that I always remember is American, and it'll cost you $51,000 for a master's from American University in political science instead of, I'm assuming, the general $100,000 one. So the Coverdale is tied to Peace Corps. So Peace Corps, without a doubt, is another great. I always say that Peace Corps is another of the kind of Fulbright-esque experiences, but much more related towards those sectors, where Fulbright's much more education. If you're going to go and do that with Peace Corps, you're going to do agriculture, you're going to do public health, community economic development, education, youth and development, or environment. And so, but that's a great program, and we're number 9 in the nation for small colleges less than 5,000 and less enrollment for producing Peace Corps volunteers. So we've got a good history there too. Because our students, I think with Fulbright and with the Peace Corps, our students want to do that. That's what you guys do here. We get you to study abroad. We get you to do these things. So it's you have a different set of skills than a lot of students like myself. I went to a large state school. It wasn't pushed for us to do the kind of service that you guys do here or the kind of international study abroad that we do. So I think you're in a good seat there too. I'm happy to work with Peace Corps too. Peace Corps revolves their deadlines, so it depends on the opportunities. But that's a good one. 27 months on that one. 3 months in country, 24 months, which is a blip, right? Because you got 40 to 60 years of your life that you're looking at right now, and you're just thinking about this little next segment in the beginning, and I know it feels like really big, but 42-year-old you is not going to be upset if you go into Peace Corps for 2 years.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Because those 2 years are not going to be the ones that are going to be those are going to be the defining characteristics in the sense of what you're going to do.
Yeah.
And apply for the Peace Corps and also apply for the Fulbright. Apply for, figure it out. It's easier to have to make that hard decision than to not have to make a decision at all. Other questions? Excited?
It's a lot.
It's a lot, but it's also, this is the exciting stuff. I mean, this is not like, okay, you're going to pick between cubicle A or cubicle B. This is your choice. You want the red stapler or the blue stapler? This is a choice of like, what can I do to really make myself kind of live the inspiration I want to live, but also how can I help the world to kind of achieve that? Because if there's one thing you are all cognizant of right now, there's a lot of things in the world that are broken. You've got good job security coming out there, but just hold on to a little bit of sanity for just a little bit longer. There's going to be a lot of good security in a lot of these different areas for you to work with.
I was just wondering, so if you wanted to apply to the Peace Corps first,
Mm-hmm.
and then after you were done, could you still apply for the Fulbright after?
Of course. The Fulbright has no age limit.
Okay.
It doesn't have an age limit. It has a degree limit. Now, like, let's say you come back from Peace Corps and you get your master's and your PhD and you're doing your work. You no longer apply for a Fulbright scholar or Fulbright student. You apply for a Fulbright Scholar Award. And for Fulbright, for faculty,
There's so many.
there's
Hundreds of them.
hundreds, and you can go like for us, we can go for a 2-week program in another country up
3
to 2
months.
years. Yeah.
There's a Fulbright for anything you want to do.
Fulbright is fantastic, and for whatever reason, they protected it in the budgetary concern, so it's safe. Where some of the other, some of the EPA awards that they used to have for graduate school have kind of gone the way of the dodo, or other things that are extinct now. But yeah, no, the Fulbright is definitely something that doesn't have a time limit on it.
Which ones do have a time limit?
Rhodes is the 25. Rhodes is the only one.
Yep,
Rhodes is
that's
the only one.
And for the degree limit, it's after master's that you don't?
Terminal.
Terminal.
So it depends on your
Depends
degree.
on your field. So like if you're in creative writing, that's an MFA. But if you're in biology, that's a PhD.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's more related to on the educational level than it is on age limits and things like that. So another hand? Or not? I see that like you're like,
So for the NSF graduate fellowship, could
Mhm.
you talk a little bit more about that one?
the NSF Graduate Research Fellowship is for any kind of science-based study. Social science is involved, psychology, sociology. They've also, they are, of course, privileging biology, biochem. There's a whole list of different opportunities. The NSF Graduate Research Fellowship, you can apply 2 times. If you apply 1 when you're outside of a program and 2 when you're accepted in a program. Most of our students who win, like we had a student or an alum who won it this year, are in their first year of grad school when they apply. But you can apply as early as a senior or as a graduate if you're not involved in a program, which is great practice because they give you feedback on the application. Now, the NSF GRFP is $143,000 worth of support for graduate school. Now, in the sciences, that is huge because that means you're coming to a graduate program with your own research budget. You become very attractive. In fact, there was a gentleman that won a graduate research fellowship this year, but did not get accepted to the 2 schools, and he only applied to 2 schools for graduate school. So now he's calling them back to say, I have this, do you want me? Now, most of our students, like I said, apply and get it in that second year. So if you apply, you have to write a policy statement. It's a little hard to do outside of a graduate program, and so it takes a bit of time to do that. But normally, students will apply their first year. They'll work with their graduate advisor, and that's when they traditionally get it. Corey Credit was a finalist when he was studying. They had a whole class, a seminar on grant writing and funding, and that was one of the things they worked on in graduate school. But you can apply for it as early, and it's usually at the end of October, but each day is different. You cannot apply for an MD though. For that, it's only PhD. So it's a lot of people in our groups will want to do it for an MD PhD because they're like, it's research, and I'm like, they don't cover the MD. So, but yeah, that's an excellent one to look at. There's also ones for each discipline, like marine science has like the Nancy Foster, which is another really good one to apply for marine science focus. It's from NOAA. But there's other ones too that are going to be affiliated in each major. I'm always happy to show you and look at those because they have different categories to them. Some of them are portable, like the Nancy Foster you can take with you. The National Science Foundation the Graduate Research Fellowship, you can take it to whatever school, but some of them are tied to schools. So you would be attending that school if you got that opportunity in that area. Like there's one for Woodrow Wilson for getting a graduate degree in, it is Wilson, getting a graduate degree in history, specifically constitutional history. So if you wanted to get a graduate degree in that, it pays for it. I mean, even if you're not really sold on it, getting a master's in the Constitution is not going to hurt you.
True. We should know that.
It would be, I would hope, I wish more people did, just understood it at least as a living document. But yeah, so that's the other reason I would say to start the exploration now is that you can start to figure out like, what is it in my field, you know, and what can I might be able to target, not just the big ones, but also the ones that are kind of in my area too.
And you said Fulbright you can apply to
Multiple times. You can even apply if you get it. Like if you get it, you can apply for another one. I mean, they're not. I mean, I'm not going to say that there's a number that have received 2 or 3, but I do know that there have been students who have received it, or graduates, undergrads, grad students who've got it, who then as faculty have got other grants too from Fulbright. So it's not, you're not cut out of the Fulbright family if you get one.
But you cannot apply for the same Fulbright twice. So when I was funding my dissertation, I had already won a Fulbright U.S. student grant. And so for that, they said, well, you can't have that one again. There's a dissertation award though. So I applied for that. I was an alternate, so I almost made it. But so it was just a matter of finding a different one. So if you get it, you can't have the same one twice.
So you can take a different one.
But that's okay, but there's something else.
Yeah.
Get something else. There's probably 50 other ones that you could do.
And they are webinared out being too. So if you Google them, you can you can look at a lot of webinars that will talk to you about it. Every one of the Fulbrighters do, well not everyone, but they try to push a very kind of forward-facing experience. So a lot of the Fulbrighters have blogs that you can read and see what a day in the life of that country looks like. And that's another way to kind of pull in, like, could I see myself in this experience?
Yeah, I had a podcast on that
Oh,
once.
cool.
But it was 11 years ago. You can look. It might still be there, but I did it in 2008, so they might have,
Moved it.
they might have archived that one because it's not the same genre.
Ah, no.
Out of these scholarships, like which ones for, like I'm a marine science major, do you recommend like looking more towards as opposed to others?
It all depends, because we have students, a student right now in marine science that applied for the Marshall, because there's some great wildlife and marine ecology programs, in the UK. So I don't want to limit any of them. I mean, I think, of course, the NSFGRP is going to be more in the science kind of area. But I mean, I think you can probably look at a large number of these and apply them. It just all depends on what you want to ultimately do. For instance, and like going to do a Fulbright ETA in, I don't know, in Thailand, right? Going and teaching English might be a perfectly great experience because you might be able to do service with an organization there that might be doing marine conservation, which would give you a great experience and kind of feed into it, even if you weren't doing research. So I'd say let's sit down and chit chat, you know, about your goals instead of kind of, I think there's some that are targeted, but some that you could also fit in there too. So like there's a lot of like, okay, there goes, I got some stress now. Well, don't be stressed. Be excited, be a little apprehensive, be a little bit, you know, like wherever your gut goes. But in many ways, this is an exciting and very productive time for you, and we just want to help to facilitate that. Hi. Yay! Well, I expect to see all of you. Not all tomorrow, but
Soon.
Nor me either.
yeah. Your crazy time this semester is also our crazy time of the semester too.
Don't seem like it.
I know, everyone's like, well, but you do this. I'm like, I know, the ultimate sign of insanity is, yes, we give you assignments that we have to grade, but we give you assignments that we have to grade. We are well aware of the hamster wheel that we put ourselves in.
Okay.
We do, we're there.
But we don't all get together and go, I'm giving it on Friday, you give it on Friday too.
Are you sure?
We do not. I am sure. I don't have time to do that.
Okay. I